Asa Newell is about to take over the NBA.
Said it, I'm golden. Told you I'm shining. Had to break through. Plan perfect timing. Giving no hands. Go get it. Radix the ruler. Can't with them peasants.
The Miami Heat picked 20th overall in the upcoming 2025 NBA draft. And so far, my draft series I've discussed: Liam McNeely, Rashir Fleming, Noah Senge, Will Riley, Nick Clifford, Walter Clayton Jr., Cedric Howard, Noah Troy, Ben Soff, Chase Richardson, Carter Bryant, Thomas Over, Danny Wolf, Maxime Renault, Adu Thero, Hassan Young, Hugo Gonzalez, and now Asa Newell. I want to give a shout out to the handful of people that recommended that I talk about him. Now, truthfully, I'm saving him closer towards the end, closer towards the draft, which is now in like 3 days, I think, at the time of this upload. I was a little bit hesitant to talk about Asa Newell, but it's because I'm not even sure he'll be available at pick number 20 or anywhere near there, because a lot of publications had him going in the lottery, like NBADraft.net, for example, had him going at number 12, Bleacher Report at number 13, but then Yahoo and Tankathon had him going at 17, ESPN at number 18, so a little bit closer towards the Heat's range. And then actually CBS had him going 25 and the Ringer at 33, which is way after the Heat's pick. Why those two publications had him going that late, I don't know. But for some reason, Asa Newell has had one of the wider ranges of prospects that we've covered so far, which is surprising because usually it was the foreign guys, the more raw prospects that had a wide range, the guys like Noah Asenge or Nolan Traore. But Asa Newell, I think he has a pretty high floor in the NBA, but I guess a lot of the publications disagree. Now, at the official NBA Combine, he actually came in with some pretty great measurements, measured at 6'9" with a 6'11" wingspan. So not the longest wingspan we've seen for these bigs, but at least it is positive. And then he also weighed 224 pounds. So I think he does have an NBA ready body right now at the age of 19 years old, although he will turn 20 in early October. So by the time the season starts, he'll be 20 years old. Not the youngest rookie, but of course he's still pretty young. I also want to note too, since we'll be comparing him to a lot of the other big men we covered, he's probably more likely to play power forward in the NBA. I know Spoelstra likes to do a lot of that small ball center. Not that he's small, he's 6'9", but I'm not quite sure he'll be big enough to play center in the league as the league happens to transition more back out of small ball. We're seeing a lot of these double big lineups. So I think he tends to more be a power forward in the league. So keep that in mind as we kind of go through his scouting report here. I know that Thomas Sorber, for example, was also 6'9", but he had a 7'6" wingspan. So a 7-inch longer wingspan than Asa Newell. And Sorber also weighed like 262 pounds. So about 40 pounds more than Asa Newell. So though those guys are the same height, do not get it twisted. Sorber is a lot bigger, and I think he is a guy that can play center in the league, where Asa Newell, he'll probably be a power forward. I think we understand that. But at his one season at Georgia, he put up some pretty well-rounded numbers. Got you 15 points per game, 7 rebounds, only 1 assist, to 1 turnover. So he really won't be a facilitator, but he can score the ball and he can rebound, particularly inside. He can score. Shot 54% from the field, which is very good. And then only 29% from 3, which isn't great, but on 2.7 attempts. So he's not afraid to get them up. And I do think there's some potential as a shooter in this league, which obviously is very important if you're a big man coming into the game nowadays. You have to at least provide some sort of spacing. You have to be capable, and I think Asa Newell can do that. He also shot 75% from the free throw line on just over 4 attempts, which is very promising as well. I also want to note his tournament stats, because I personally put a lot of stock into how these young kids perform in the tournament, because March Madness is a whole other level of pressure, and if you can perform those games, I think he can perform in the NBA. Look at a guy named Dwayne Wade, if you want an example. But in their conference tournament, Georgia actually played against Oklahoma. And while they lost that game, Asa Newell still put up 21 points and 17 rebounds. Shot 56% from the field. And 2 of 5 from 3, so did a little bit of everything except pass the ball. Did have 0 assists, but still played really well. Although they lost, they still went into the top 64 as a 9th seed, and they got killed in the first round by Gonzaga. So in his conference tournament game and then the main tournament, yes, Georgia lost both games, but he also played well in the round of 64 versus Gonzaga. Asa had 20 points and 8 rebounds and shot 60% from the floor. So he played pretty well. This is a guy who I don't think is afraid of the big moments. Not to mention that he was on the superstar-studded team of Montverde Academy in high school, who of course has had dozens of great NBA players over the years. There was that dominant team with Scotty Barnes and Cade Cunningham and them. But I think Asa Newell's Monteverde team might actually be better because while he was there, he played with Cooper Flagg, the guy who will be the #1 pick in the draft. Also played with Derek Queen, a lock to be a lottery pick. Liam McNeely was also there, who was the first guy we talked about in our draft videos. So he'll be a first-round pick taken as well. So those teams were absolutely stacked. Asa Newell is a guy that is used to playing a role, and I think that's probably what he could be in the NBA right now. Some of the player comps that I saw do excite me, and others don't. The first player comp that I saw was David Lee, who, don't get it twisted, David Lee was a bucket. He was a defender. He could rebound, and overall, great NBA player. But I do question how effective David Lee would be in today's NBA game. This shocked me when I looked it up because I knew David Lee was by no means a floor spacer, but in his entire career, in which he made multiple All-Star teams, mind you, he only hit 1 3-pointer in his entire career. And as a 6'9" guy who, played a lot of power forward, but played some center too, he's a little bit of an undersized center and only hitting 1 3 in his career. I'm just not sure that can work in today's NBA, although he is a great rebounder. He is. So if Asa Newell can become David Lee, cool. David Lee had a great career. I just don't know how effective that archetype is in today's NBA. The next comp I saw was Heat legend Precious Achiuwa. I think that might be like worst case scenario for Asa Newell, which is not a bad thing. Precious Achiuwa is a role player, maybe a low level role player, but I do see the comparisons there in terms of defensive versatility, athleticism, rebounding. But obviously Precious never really panned out the way I thought he could, because he definitely had all the physical tools to be great in this league, just never really panned out for him. But then the next two comparisons I really like a lot. The first one is Jonathan Isaac, who has had his troubles, staying healthy. But when healthy, he was an elite defender, not a bad scorer as well, could rebound the ball, could really do everything out there. If Asa Newell can become that, that'd be a home run for the Miami Heat. And then the next comp I saw is John Collins. That's one I love as well, because of course John Collins is a guy that was able to develop his 3-point shots as he grew, as his NBA career grew. And if borderline all-star type of guy, if Asa Newell can become that, that would just be a great player. But now I want to get into some of the strengths and weaknesses that Kevin O'Connor had listed in his Yahoo article. But of course, I'll share my thoughts as well based off my independent research. So we'll start with the strengths, where at first Kevin lists his at-rim finishing. He says that Newell is an explosive leaper who also has good soft hands to catch tough passes or corral offensive boards in traffic. The soft hands part, anytime I read that, it reminds me of our guy, Coach Tony Fiorentino. If y'all are Heat fans and remember back in the day, anytime somebody used to block a shot, whether it was Joel Anthony or Hassan Whiteside, they'd keep it in bounds, and he'd say, "Oh, that's soft hands, Eric. Look how he keeps it in bounds." Shout out Coach Tony, man. That reminds me of him. But Asa Newell does have that too. He has a very soft touch on his shots. Kind of reminded me of Khalil Ware a little bit too. He's obviously bigger than Asa Newell, but they're both big men. And a lot of times those bigger, stronger guys, they clank little floaters, the little push shot off the rim just because they're a little bit too strong. But Asa does have some nice touch around there. It goes on to say that once he possesses the ball, he does a great job keeping it high. One of the most important things for big men to learn, do not bring the ball low. Otherwise, the defense can strip it pretty easily. But then it says he also has a solid handle driving in a straight lane. So with NBA spacing, he could be a threat attacking from the perimeter. I think so. He's a guy that's just super athletic and is able to get to the rim. He's efficient once he gets there. The next strength that has listed is his jumper potential. I know his numbers aren't good, but it says that he's shown flashes of developing a jump shot, has a decent looking shooting stroke, and like we just mentioned, the soft touch that he has kind of from that little, 5 to 10 foot area. Personally, while his form is not the worst, I think he has an inconsistent base. Sometimes his feet are pointed away from the rim. Sometimes his feet are further apart than other times when he shoots. I think that's the one thing that the shooting development staff will really kind of work down when they get him. But it's not the worst. He has a great follow through. He has a very good arc, which a lot of times these taller players do not have. So I do think the potential is there for him to develop that jump shot, especially in the Heat system, who's developed a number of shooters throughout the years. The next strength they have listed is his rim protection. It says that Newell is an impactful defender at the rim, using his length and timing to alter shots. He's especially productive as a help defender, rotating over from the perimeter to the rim, making plays and making plays in the passing lanes. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the tallest wingspan, but if you have a 6'11" wingspan with his kind of athleticism and the defensive IQ to learn how to rotate, yeah, you're going to block a lot of shots. You're going to play in those passing lanes, and he's definitely a very switchable defender. That's actually the next strength they have listed. It says he's also comfortable guarding on the perimeter, which gives him the ability to switch screens. There were also countless moments in college in which he'd be on an island against a quicker guard and more than held his own. This is a guy who would fit perfectly in Eric Spoelstra's switch everything system. I do think Asa Newell could guard 3 through some 5s, maybe some 2s if his lateral quickness is actually that quick. I'm not ready to say that yet, but because of his length and just his athleticism, he can definitely guard multiple positions. And yeah, he would fit seamlessly in the Heat's defensive system. Not to mention that the last strength they have listed just says hustle. On offense, he always makes himself available for dump-offs and lobs, whether he's floating around the baseline or in the half court or sprinting the floor hard on the fast break. And on defense, he'll make as many efforts as necessary to get stops. He'll log plenty of chase down blocks at the next level too. If that doesn't scream Heat culture, I don't know what does. This Heat team needs to get back to that Heat culture that they turned into a marketing scheme now. I do think Asa Newell would fit that culture excellent. Now let's get into his weaknesses. The first one that it does note is his passing. The numbers kind of show that. Says that he gets careless without the ball, leading to strips or interceptions. This also limits him out of the short roll and pick and pops. Perhaps most importantly, without a handle, it's a lot easier to switch ball screens against him, which neutralizes his lob threats on the roll. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense because he's going to be the roll man in a lot of these. He won't really need to be a good passer. I don't think he's going to be a guy that has the ball in his hands for long periods of time. I think he will be a play finisher, and you don't have to pass the ball if that's the case. Like, not to compare him to Mitchell Robinson, but Mitchell Robinson averages like, what, a half assist a game? He's not passing the ball. Run the pick and roll, catch the lob, sit in the dunker spots, move without the ball. Jason Newell is very good at all those things and finish plays. I'm not super concerned that he's not a great passer. The next weakness that it lists is his defensive discipline. Although he is an elite defender, it says that he sometimes misses rotations and commits avoidable fouls because he's out of position. Sometimes he'll simply misread a play, like choosing to stay close to a poor shooter rather than rotating over to contain a driving opponent. This weakness is very common in a lot of these prospects that we looked at, but it's because he's 19. Like, you will learn, and I have the utmost confidence that if he gets with the Heat development staff, a lot of these mistakes will be avoided. And the way I look at it too, if you commit in a lot of unnecessary fouls, it at least means you're trying. It means you're being gritty, you're being aggressive, and I do appreciate that hustle. And as you get older, you'll learn to kind of cut a lot of the dumb mistakes out. So I don't think this is a huge, big deal. And then the final weakness that has listed is just the shooting production. The strength we said was potential. Obviously, the weakness is just he's not great at it right now, but he's not a complete non-threat out there like, you know, some of the other bigs in college were like I don't even know who else, but like a Donovan Clingan. I don't know. Didn't Donovan Clingan shoot a little bit at UConn? I don't remember. Point is, he will attempt threes. He will get better at it. Just right now, it's not his game. As far as his fit on the Miami Heat, like I said earlier, I think he has a very high floor. You know, I think he could absolutely play right away, but he's still young enough to have some upside. I got a comment on my last video, my Hugo Gonzalez video, who's definitely a raw prospect. Somebody commented, "Oh, why would the Heat want to get someone who needs to develop? Like, get someone who can play right now, but also has upside." And I'm like, that's not how it works. Not at pick number 20, at least. Like, 9 times out of 10, you got to pick one or the other. It's going to be impossible to find a guy who's ready to play right now and be productive, but also have tons of potential. Like, it'd be really hard. Now, there is certain guys like that. I think a lot of the bigs, Thomas Sorber, Danny Wolf, I think those guys fit that criteria. And I do think Asa Newell does as well. So, to that one unrealistic commenter, Asa Newell might be your guy because I do think he can kind of be both. But as his floor is high, I don't think his ceiling is as high. I think guys like Danny Wolf, with everything he can do offensively, same thing with Maxime Renault, Thomas Orders, footwork is just next level. I think those guys have a bit of a higher ceiling. They're also a bit bigger. But for Asa Newell, his ceiling is definitely a very high level role player, potentially a very great starter in this league. So definitely a guy that I think every team can absolutely use. And if the Heat were to get him, I think in year one specifically, he'd be a great 1-2 punch off the bench with Nikola Jovic. You got the 6'10 Jovic with the flashy passes, can run with the ball in his hands, can space the floor. And you got Asa Newell to clean up everything on the defensive end and to be that athletic lob threat. I think those two together could be very fun. We saw the connection that Jovic had next to Khalil Ware. They were throwing lobs to each other left and right. I think Jovic could have the similar type of connection with Asa Newell. Plus, we would still need some more size off the bench. Asa can provide that because right now, it's assuming Bam and Khalil Ware starts next to Kevin Durant. But assuming those guys start, your bench bigs are Jovic, who's not really a big, and then like Kevin Love. Like, you feel me? Like, need I say more? I think Asa Newell, who is the complete opposite of Kevin Love at this point, could be desperately needed for the Heat's bench. He's still a bit too small to play center, like I said, so I would like the Heat to get a true backup center, whether that's in free agency or the trades or whatever, or through the draft. That's why I personally like guys like Sorber, Wolf, and Renault a little bit more, but I do think Asa Newell could be a guy who would right away instill some of that Heat culture. Like, we talk about it all the time. We talked about it earlier. The Heat culture went from a real thing to a damn marketing scheme, and it makes me sad because they just got blown out in the playoffs, and it looked like the only person who cared out there was Davion Mitchell. They need more guys like that. They need more dogs, and that is absolutely Asa Newell. But that's all I got to say for this video, so let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about Asa Newell at pick number 20 for the Miami Heat? I'm very curious to hear what y'all think. Make sure to like the video and subscribe because I'm on the grind to hit 8,000 subs, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace out, everyone.
Look, pull up in your city trying to get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. This homegrown bitch don't offend me.